Hey everybody, my name's Kinch and I'm an adult child of an alcoholic. And thank you, Sue. And thank you, Gail. That was really amazing, and it's a really tough act to follow. The first meeting I went to in ACA, coincidentally, or maybe not, was the Fox Bar meeting, and Gail happened to be speaking that night. And right, got a little God coincidence maybe. And she inspired me with that talk that day. It was a genuine, like she talked about tonight, some vulnerable sharing about herself, and I was impressed, inspired, and I was also in a lot of pain, so I was desperate, so I kept coming back. Anyway, okay, great. I can yell too. There's so many. I looked at the program, and there's so many heavy hitters here. People with a lot of ACA experience. Presenters, people with a lot of knowledge. And I'm just a construction worker, so it's kind of overwhelming for me, right? I'm just a carpenter, like Jesus. Yeah. Just like Jesus, but much more humble. Before, I didn't really know. So anyway, I'm probably just going to tell my story. But before I do that, I just want to talk about the three legacies in our program, which are service, recovery, and unity. And in Toronto, we have such amazing service. I'm so awestruck by all the hard work that the people in Toronto, our service structure here, has put together. Our intergroup has put together this great bid, and has worked for the last year or more putting this together. A lot of work, great, just a huge magnitude of work, right? It's so impressive, and I'm honored to be here participating, and I'm honored to call you guys my friends. I really appreciate all you've done. Let's give them another hand. And as has already been said, we have the recovery component, and it's really strong in Toronto. I've been to several meetings in Toronto. The Fox Bar, the huge meeting, just really powerful. Lots of recovery there. They're working their programs, and they're doing a lot of service, putting on that meeting. It's really strong. Jericho, Chrysalis, to name a few. A whole bunch of new meetings. Nova has been started. A couple of meetings in the north end of the city. There's so much going on here. It's really impressive to me. My friend Wayne, who has been putting on these step studies tirelessly with the Yellow Book. The people. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people in this room. I've met you personally, and I hope to meet all the people from around the world and from the States over the weekend. It's amazing to me how watching the people go through the actions in that Yellow Book and the literature that we have to guide us through it with the Red Book and the Yellow Book. It's inspiring to me. The recovery in Toronto is strong. It's really strong, and I applaud you all for that. I applaud us. And the unity, when I say a world convention like this, the people who stood up from all the different countries in the world, right? The people, you guys are the life breath. People who are, doing the work, showing up, and who are here, who were here when I bottomed out, and needed help, was desperate enough to ask for help and to seek it out. That you guys are seeking after truth hard. That you're here. This is an impressive turnout. It's an impressive gathering. My personal recovery depends on ACA unity. I'm just flabbergasted, thrilled, excited, inspired by all of you. Let's clap again for ourselves. Enough plugs. So when I was a little kid, some of my earliest memories are of my father being really angry, and he would, it's a couple of things I can remember. He would, we'd sit at the table, he'd stare into space, but he was really angry and nobody would say anything because you knew he was going to snap on you. He would, sometimes we'd just all be really quiet because he'd be walking around in another part of the kitchen yelling to himself, like going over how he was going to get back at that guy or that person. He was, rehearsing that angry talk, with whoever. He'd do that all the time. Sometimes out of the blue, I'd just be doing something, he'd come up and just knock me down and start screaming at me. Other times, I could do something small, spill the milk, and I was a little kid, and he'd, slap me across the top of my head, scream at me, and call me names, and, other times I'd just be I remember this one time I was at a swim meet. I was 9 years old, and he just came in and into the change room afterwards and just grabbed me. He started screaming at me in front of all these other parents, and picked me up and just dragged me out of there the whole way through this school, literally dragging me on the ground, and threw me in the back of the car. And I was sitting in the back of the car, not able to. I can't yell at this guy, right? Because he's going to kill me. And that I remember those times that I would have this burning feeling in my face. And they talk about it in our literature, right? When we're doing feelings work, because I needed to have some descriptions for that as well. It's been helpful for me, really unbelievable. But that burning feeling of shame and anger, and this idea of this isn't really fair. So that's just some examples. My father never really punished me for things that I had done wrong either. It was kind of odd. He would just come at me out of the blue, it seemed, when he was angry. And, I didn't really put this together until later on in my life when I was an adult. But when he was angry when he's sober. When he was drunk, he wasn't angry, and he would leave me alone. Often I would see my father in a blackout. There was a lot of drinking in our house, and I saw a lot of blackout drinking, and other times he would come home drunk and fight with my mom, like in the middle of the night, and I have memories of my sister and I sitting at the top of the stairs listening to them throw stuff at each other and smash the main floor up, And eventually she divorced my dad. She came to me and said she was so worried that I was going to take it badly, and she said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I have to tell you this." And she was crying. She said, "I'm divorcing your father." And I said, "What took you so long? We've been dying here, I had been dying. My sister was a witness because he was her favorite, but the trauma of seeing all that stuff it's hard on everybody, on her, and my mom took a lot of, he physically had abused her as well, and mentally and emotionally. After they were separated, he would come and get us sometimes in a blackout, just drunk, and she let us go with him a couple times, and that was pretty terrifying. Driving along, we would go out to our farm on the highway, and he would be in a blackout, and we kept pulling off on these, the wrong turn off, and he'd be bumping into the curbs, and that was those are some terrifying moments. I think that I've had some trauma in my life, and that I belong here. One of the things I want to also do, not to defend my dad, but to the same way we look at our own assets. He wanted to love me. He tried to love me. He did love me. He spent a lot of time with me. He was trying to quit drinking I know he had times when he was sober, and he was trying to quit drinking for his whole life. He would be on the wagon. Some of the things he would do with me, and he taught me, we would ski 10 miles. We'd ski cross country. It was great. He loved doing that with me. We had a good time. He showed me how to catch and play football. He was a football player. he would make skating rinks for us behind the barn, we'd get cow manure and make he'd make a little ring and he'd keep filling it, He built a paddock and bought me a pony when I was maybe 10 or 12, He showed me how to ride it, showed me how to dress it, etc. We played Scrabble. He showed me how to do all this stuff, Showed me how to skate, showed me how to cut wood, showed me how to build stuff, mix concrete, hammer nails. He was a tough man, and I really love my dad. And I know that he had the thing to watch him. I know he had so much integrity sober, but he just couldn't not pick up that first drink. And when he picked it up, all bets were off. And and then when he couldn't drink, he was just consumed with, wanting to get a drink, but also being irritable, restless, discontented, shamed, And I had no idea about all that until much later on in my life. I said that I would never pick up a drink, I'd never be like my father. And sure enough, when I was 14, I was sitting around with some friends of mine and some high school buddies, and I picked up that drink, and I drank more than everybody else. I blacked out, I passed out, I got carried home by my friends. I puked in the sink in the kitchen, and my mom looked at me the same way she looked at my dad and cried. For the next couple of years, I would drink on weekends, and I would continue to get arrested in blackouts by the police. And, the other kind of jackpots that you get into. By the time I was 16, I got some charges, and that was fairly serious. I started smoking weed because of my blackouts, and that, wasn't a great management system. Tell us your plans, they say, before you go ahead and do it. Anyways, I just went from being a straight A student on the football team to a high school dropout. They kicked me out, actually, for not showing up the next year. And, I was happy about that because I could keep drinking at my pace and starting to do more drugs. By the time I was 19 or 20, I was starting to deal drugs, and I was turning over about $100,000 worth of hash and weed and, mushrooms, soft drugs. Now the government's doing it, man. Oh, you're a dealer. Oh, whatever. Anyway, it was kind of stigma for those who are, not whatever. So, I went through another decade or more drinking and drugging and, continuing to go. I can see the milestones down if I look back, continuing to, bottom, hit further and further on the bottom. By 2000, I got enough charges that I was sentenced to a year in jail. I went to jail for about 7 months in 2000, and I got out. And when I got out, I was working in film and television. I was doing a commercial, and I was location managing a commercial for the Hudson's Bay, pretty big commercial. And I saw this lady walk up who I had a very brief relationship with. I mean brief, and she was pregnant, and she told me that it was her kid, and her kid for sure. I wish. No, I don't. He's the best thing. He's like the best thing in my life. Anyway, so right after I got out of jail, I started drinking again, and I got. By 2003, I had become a hardcore cocaine addict, and I kept trying to stop drinking, but because every time I picked up a drink, I would break out in cocaine or other problems, but I couldn't drink without picking up cocaine. So I would do. By 2003, I was doing 5 or 6 day runs without sleep or food, and I thought that if I had a multivitamin, I was doing great. However, I started to realize that there had to be more, and I was developing suicidal ideation. So I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I I sought help. And I was very lucky in Alcoholics Anonymous in October 1st, 2003 is my dry date, and I was very lucky in Alcoholics Anonymous to find some people. I found a pocket of enthusiasm. I found some people and a sponsor who really wanted to give me time and did give me time and showed me how to go through the steps in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had a spiritual awakening as a result of doing all 12 steps. And I turned my will and life over to that set of principles and to my higher power. I was in the program for a while, a couple of years, 2-3 years, and I met a woman outside. I started to, feel normal enough to date. I met a normal woman outside of the program and started to get into a relationship with her, and I was starting to get some access with my son, whose mother hated me and didn't know me. We were really virtually strangers. And we were starting to build a life together, and I was apprenticing with a builder to build houses. And, when I was 7 years sober, I guess, in 2009, my father's girlfriend called me. And she said, you have to come up and see your father. Don't tell him you're coming, but you have to just go up and surprise him and just come. He's very sick, and he won't call any of you, and I'm just calling you to tell you that. And so I went up there, and he was all gray, like his skin was white, his hair was gray, he was very tiny, and he was wheezing, and he told me that he had lung cancer, and that the diagnosis was stage 4, and that he was terminal. I said, what the hell? Why don't you have an oxygen tank? What are you doing? Right? Because I guess he didn't know how to advocate for himself, and I think he was afraid of having cancer, and I would be. But he was a pretty tough guy, stoic, and so, I just went up there and lived with him and put my life on hold for a while because I knew it was only 3 months, right? And I wanted to spend time with him. And, I wanted to make an amends to him for for the way I had been as a son. In Alcoholics Anonymous, I'd done a lot of 4th step work, and I'd forgiven my father. I just loved him for who he was, and I wanted to spend time with him. And I thought that I didn't have much, so I took him to Kingston, and we did all the cancer treatments and all the chemo, and it's just brutal on the poor guy. But he just was he had a lot of courage. I really admired him. And I helped him to die at home because he wanted to. He didn't want to go to the hospital, so I helped him to die as gracefully as we could do that. And I could not have done that without the 12 steps. Okay, the 12 steps have changed my life. The 12 steps and 12 traditions are unbelievable to me. They're so powerful because I'm a very selfish person. Hopefully I'm triggering your laundry list characters right now, in fact. I'm very self-centered, and for me to be able to stay sober for a day is pretty tough for me, but also to be able to help other people, especially somebody that I blame my whole identity was around blaming my father for how shitty my life was. That's just incredible to me. And God bless us for having. God has blessed us with this program. When I got back, I went back. I'd started my own business. I was doing pretty well, I thought I was doing well with this lady, and we were building a life together, and we were getting my son, and we had a house, and we were living. I was living the dream. I'd never done so well. I'd never been so normal with anybody. My relationships had always been chaos, like chaos drinking. You know what I mean? And my partners were always chaos drinkers, just nuts. So I thought, this is amazing. I've become a real person. I thought I'd become a grown-up. She turned to me and said, "You have to leave." And I was just like, what? Right? She just totally floored me. And I had the kind of pain, which I couldn't drink away anymore, and the kind of pain which I had come to know now from going through the workbook is I look at it as the abandonment rupture. Something happened to me where I was so crippled by being told to leave, and unexpectedly too. You know, the abuse, the hallmark is that it happens unexpectedly. That's how we develop PTSD. That's what I'm led to believe. So yeah, it just triggered that, and I needed to seek help. She told me, go live with your mom, so I had to go live with my mom again as a 40-year-old. It's freaking insane. And my mom, my stepdad, her husband, her new husband, is also an alcoholic, was an alcoholic. So I was living there for a couple of months, and I finally moved out into my own place. And a couple of months out, and my stepdad was acting so weird. I was like, what is wrong with this guy? He's saying the weirdest stuff, right? And he was looking pretty unhealthy. His feet were like giant, like really swollen. And I would catch him sleeping in this chair, and I started to notice that his eyes were getting yellow and his skin was becoming orange. And a couple of months later, after I moved out, he basically, because of the drinking, he was developing cirrhosis, and he had a heart attack. And my mom found him face down in the dead in our living room at her house. The disease of alcoholism is really powerful. I used to blame my dad, but after becoming an alcoholic, right, I understood what it was like. I understood why, when drinking, I'm not angry. I got in a lot of fights, let me tell you, but not because I'm a tough guy, because I got a big mouth. When I was drinking, I wasn't angry. It was when I was sober, I was just like this. And my stepdad, I looked at him and I go, why can't this guy? Why does he drink? A pint of vodka every day? Why can't he just, because I was a binge drinker, why can't he just take it or leave it a little bit, I love the disease model that we have. It gets me out of the shame, it gets me out of the why, the should, all that kind of stuff, So I came to ACA right after she kicked me out. It was when he died. I think I was in my first step study. I was going to some ACA meetings, and I was going to this yellow step study book, step study meeting with the yellow book, and I was in crisis. I could barely function. There's something about the yellow book and the exercises in the yellow book. Like I said about doing the 12 steps in Alcoholics Anonymous, I'd done a lot of forgiving, but there was still, every time I'd go through that step study, and still now, but, the first 6 years of going through that step study, I would cry hard every time, several times. There's something about the exercises, and especially the step 4 exercises, which they release the pain. They let me not. I thought it was all just about being angry, right? But I can get over the anger. I can intellectually not blame people. I can take responsibility for my own life. But there's something about the trauma and releasing the trauma, like was mentioned already. That book is, it's just magical. And being able to cry in front of you guys has been pretty good too. The fact that I've been able to go somewhere and I don't feel like judged, because I can identify with all of you. That when I listen to you share in that meeting, I feel calm, I feel safe, I feel like I can tell you the truth. I don't have to put on an act. I can be myself, my true self. And the other thing that I like a lot about our program, especially the big red book. I like our literature in this program. The big books in Alcoholics Anonymous is pretty old. This red book is relatively new, and it's really powerful. I'm so grateful to World Service. I was at this ABC business conference for a couple hours over the last 2 days, and you guys are unbelievable. Unbelievable, man. I've been to a lot of business meetings, hundreds, literally, of business meetings, and, AA intergroup stuff, and I've been to a lot of CA, a lot of fellowships where people will stab each other in business meetings, you know what I mean? And I'm not kidding. Like, I was listening to these guys at the ABC thing, and they're like so tolerant, and they're getting up and congratulating each other, and they're like, oh, wow, that's, that's so respectful, and we love you. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm a spiritual pygmy. I am a spiritual and emotional pygmy, because, my thing when somebody gets up is like, wrong, wrong, wrong. My internal critic, like, wrong, don't care, wrong, don't care. So I felt about this tall. But so impressed that this is possible. And also, like was said, that, that you guys give so much of your time, and you're so smart. Like, there are some smart people in this program, And you're all putting it to amazing use. Because look at this, Look what we got here. Look at all these people. So, like Francis said, so much love here, We've come from a place where we were drained of the love, right? But here we've come together. This is our new family, I'm just so grateful. I'm very grateful. And Gail talked about denial, and one of the things that I realized quite early on when I quit drinking, like they say in step 8, and we were talking about step 8 the other day at our meeting, that you should put yourself first on the list of harms, right? And while I agree with that, I also believe that when we start coming here and start practicing step 1, realizing that I cannot manage my own life. I'm not a good manager, right? That I'm powerless over the effects of the laundry list. I'm powerless over the effects of family dysfunction. That on my own, without you guys, I will continue to self-harm, and I won't even know. I can't ever see it coming. Can't see it in myself, right? I need all you guys. I need my ACA family. I think that I stopped. Once I started to get a little bit of acceptance that I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict and I can't safely pick up a drink or a drug, I started to stop harming myself. Once I came to ACA and started to practice with you guys and really started to think and meditate on those laundry list characteristics, that I am convinced are helping me to survive but are actually harming me, that are killing me. I have to integrate them, right? And the program, I think, is brilliant. It's a little different than AA, that I have to, I know when I'm drinking. I know if I pick up a drink, right? How do I know when I'm drinking an ACA? So I got to really work on it, How do I know when I'm having that ACA relapse or regression? And also the character defect versus the laundry list, right? I know I'm selfish and self-centered, and I know what that character defect looks like. Like Francis said, I pray to God to come into me and grant me the awareness, give me the humility of the open mind. Come into me before I do it again next time, right? Come into me, guide my thinking, that it be divorced from inconsideration, approval seeking, and dishonesty. And then come into me and guide me and tell me, when I'm about to hurt myself. And one of the things I've tried to also stop doing is harming other people. I thank God. We go from hurting to helping, it's hurting to healing to helping. I think it's an axiom in our program that you can't harm others without harming yourself, right? So I got to keep an eye on that. One of the things that I've been blessed with, and that my sponsor, who has passed away, Colin Brown, he taught me. He actually gave me that step study. Like, thanks for giving me the props, but he just gave it to me. He was doing it way before I showed up. Rosalind was doing it with him when I showed up. Hi, Rosalind. You guys have given me the gift to be of service, because it's a healing thing, right? To sit with all of you guys and do this is amazing. And that's what his message to me was. And he loved Omer G, by the way. This guy loved Omer G. And I want to just say thank you to Omer G, who's also no longer with us. And for, all the people who helped develop the literature and who are still continuing to develop the literature. Awesome. just awesome work. The laundry list workbook, just amazing. That's new. I just want to say thank you to all of you who work your program really hard and carry the message to other people, because we're in it together. And I hope that you all, one day at a time, continue to find healing in this program, and that God may bless and keep you, and that you have a great conference this weekend. Thanks, guys.